there is, so maybe we are discussing dichotomies here. So there is this subjective approach to healthcare within the communities, and there is this kind of a very objective. Maybe I'm doing a very superficial thing, but I think there is a clear mismatch between this kind of a subjective approach to taking care of health and an objectified, outside the context, linear approach to research. And I think this is also another issue where how do we develop kind of how do we move beyond disciplines, be it biomedicine or Ayush? How do we move beyond and create kind of a transdisciplinary approach to research? So these are the 4 points that I would like to raise for discussion today. One is, how do we create more international presence for this? Second is about a comprehensive understanding of traditional medicine sector, not of it as just knowledge or biological resources or and so on. For instance, Madhulika ji raised this point that if you're talking about Bhood Pret, then we are not discussing about your thing. So I think it's a very, very critical issue. So, but how do we understand it in totality? Third is about education. How do we bring in, for instance, in the state where I come from, Kerala, after 5.5 years of college education, we go to a famous Vaidyas to get trained in clinical medicine. So how do we integrate this in the institutional process or the passionate institutionalization process? And the final question is about research and assessing traditional knowledge. Thank you very much.
And really given me an opportunity to slightly say something about what you brought up. I must say that during my travels to the state governments, when I saw what Ritu Priyaji was referring to, the status of amalgamation at the PHC level, at the CHC level, government has tried to post the Ayush doctor. Very large numbers they have been posted, but every single PHC, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, and I'm talking across about 6 states that I've visited in depth. And I was accompanied by state government people, so it was not as though, I was going like a journalist or something looking for faults. They had been forewarned, but even so, you found that the Ayush practitioner was sitting alone with hardly an OPD of 3 or 4. And meanwhile, by 9 o'clock in the morning, the allopathic person had God knows how many. So I just put it to the allopath that there are people in a queue outside. Some of them may benefit hugely by having even a consultation, even if drugs are not available, just to know, is there an Unani or an Ayurvedic approach to the problem you have, particularly older people, people with arthritis, people with skin problems, intractable problems. And the answer was, this is not my job. I talked to the MO in charge. His attitude was, MO being a medical officer in charge in the PHC, the attitude was, look, we have given a room to this person to sit. She comes on time, she goes on time, she helps us with deliveries. We are not given any more instructions than this. It was a sad situation where human manpower was being just wasted. Not that they were ill-treated, not that they were completely not allowed to work. Now, coming from that situation and seeing it happening everywhere, I used the opportunity I had. I said when my meeting with the Health Secretary of the state dealing with Ayush, I said, please will you call the Director Health Services and the Director Medical Education. And I would advocate that much more of FAQs, frequently asked questions and answers, guidelines, counseling to the patient, counseling to the allopath, counseling to the Ayush doctor also. He should not sit on a high horse. All these people need to be given some sort of a package of what is expected from them. Not just, aapko kamra de diya aur aapko kursi de diya, baith jaiye, aur register aapke samne hai. No. If you want to see it from a patient's point of view, from the public point of view, you have to make integration feasible and possible, not a physical thing, what Ritu Priyaji referred to. So the reaction at these high-level meetings was, it was for me a little, I would say, disappointing. the Ayush secretary would listen to me and say, Ayush means the person was also in charge of health and was probably in charge of medical education, would listen to me, eyes open, very, very attentive. Not that they were not attentive. And they would take notes. And I almost felt I had convinced them. And I came with a background. It was not as though I was just going over there as just somebody. I had been commissioned by the ministry to do this work. It was shocking that the Director Health Services and the Director Medical Education, without exception, would come up. What work do these people do? They don't even have any published journal article. They don't have any proof. Let them prove what they're saying before they talk in this manner. Half the cases are spoiled by these people and then we have to take care of them. And I could see that there was a dichotomy in the mind of the secretary. What do? Do I take on these two stalwarts on whom the entire machinery is resting? Or do I listen to this woman who is here today, gone by within 1 hour, she'll catch a flight and go back? So I could see there was a kind of a feeling, let's be diplomatic, let's not get into an argument, but let us not, take this forward. This I'm putting in my report because unless there is an understanding, there is no way that the public are going to be benefited. You can spend any amount of money on doctors, on drugs, on putting up charts, beautiful charts of medicinal plants. It means nothing to the public. If I have a problem and it is not going, I will try anything to get rid of that problem. It is then that counseling is necessary, and that I think has been brought out by Unnikrishnan in the remarks that he made. He put it very, very crisply. But the fact is that what he said about having an understanding of your own competencies and skills is far more important than the education that is being imparted. You're being taught benign prostrate hypertrophy and treatment of that. Why? When you can't do pulse reading. You are being taught about cardiac interventions and life-saving hospital ward situations, which the Ayurvedic doctors and Unani doctors are happily saying, "Hame ye bhi aata hai, hame wo bhi aata hai." Do they know the pulse points of Marma? They don't know this. I asked 4 different doctors, "You take my pulse, please," and they gave 4 different answers. This is where we are really lacking. We are talking in an impassioned way about Ayurveda, but probably somewhere we are ourselves meaning not people in the room, but the doctors themselves are looking to a vision of wearing a white coat and sitting and prescribing antibiotics. I'll talk about my experience with Himalaya and all that a little later. Right now, I think we should go on to the, thank you, Krishnaji. We will go to the last speaker, and his name is Sri Hari Ram Murthy. I request him to please take it.
It's indeed a surprise. I was all the time wanting to listen to all of you, and I was not really mentally prepared for this part of the role that I am asked to perform. I think there are 3 questions that come to my mind. There is a large consensus. Ayush and LHTs have greater role to play than what governments have assumed them to play. The policymakers do make policy pronouncements, but they have not turned out to be actionable programs. Because 91 years back, the statement of integration was called for, and we are still talking about integration. So we can see the difficulty of mainstreaming a traditional Indian-based knowledge system to benefit the large number of people who are not able to get access to the health facilities. The third, I want to add that this legitimacy that we are talking about, which is not enjoyed by the local healers, is just the way the allopathy treats the Ayurveda doctors in that hospital that Madam has visited, or the meetings where one allopathy doctor will seem to be having a greater presence than the Ayurvedic doctor in the same hall. It is the same way the Ayush doctors treat the local health practitioners. Since large number of years that I have spent in this field happens to be with the healers. I have related much less with Ayurveda doctors, but whenever we have related on this issue, there seems to be this, insecurity, let me put it. The Ayurveda people feel insecure. At least this is very clear in my interaction. So they feel threatened. And that goes without saying, even in the last meeting which happened in the Department of Ayush meeting, about the relevance of a new pilot experiment that we are engaged currently in collaboration with the Indira Gandhi National Open University and the Quality Council of India to pilot a scheme for certification of prior learning for the healers. The space for healers has been lesser and lesser as we keep promoting Indian medicine. I think all of us need to keep in mind the current generation of healers are around 50 and above. In the next 20 years, there won't be anything local health traditions left if Government of India and the state governments do not wake up. So I'm sorry, madam. We as politicians, we as bureaucrats have not performed our duty. And it is failure of all the parties put together that we are still talking about integration of LHT and the shift that I am seeing between the 11th and the 12th plan document. LHT has shrunk in its pace. I am indeed very shocked. I wish we have access to the bureaucrats who are managing the department today, and I request Vijay Bhai, who is not there, to make such engagement possible. Okay, very difficult to engage in dialogue. So the meeting that was held was witnessed, I think, only one person from outside the department. It resulted in a situation where all the three mainstream codified knowledge practitioners in the department saying this scheme should be stopped. Accreditation and certification of prior learning is a scheme that was promoted with a lot of hard work, and we felt that this will help in revitalizing a greater space and social legitimacy for the healer to be mainstreamed. And this was financially, and this is being financially supported by the department. So there is this insecurity feeling between the codified and the local health practitioners. So unless the health system perspective that Rituji spoke about, this will not happen. So there will be certified local health practitioner still sitting in a very limited presence in a big hall in front of an Ayurvedic doctor. So you can imagine these things will not change unless there is a mainstream engagement of policy and civil society as to how long should we take. Should we take another 90 years? That is my question, and I leave this question to be answered to engage in more such dialogues with the people who make decisions. And also I think in one of the meetings that we had in Sadar, it is a political process that has been very inefficient in our country. We have had Congress parties, BJP parties, Janata Dal parties, Janata parties, but this problem of Indian knowledge getting a bigger role, bigger significance to address the equitable access to primary health care has been a very faraway dream. So there is something wrong with all of us and with the political process, and this Sadat's initiative of bringing us together must begin to take more shapes. And I was telling Vijay Bhai about a month back that this must become not just an intellectual exercise. It must involve people. See, we didn't have JP's movement of political parties. It involved me and Vijay 40 years back. We were in the roads, we were shouting naras, and that's how there was that kind of a big political change. And it has not been happening in the last 20-30 years in the way that it used to happen. And some of us must engage, bring the people to such a forum and have, I keep referring to him, people's manifesto on many of these things must be discussed by political parties So I'm very happy we have one politician from Nepal. I think you see in Nepal a similar, experience. People have their own voice, and you as political parties have to listen to them, and keep aligning yourself to play a very effective role. I think it is time for us in India too to engage in this dialogue with more and more people joining this. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I was not mentally prepared, but this why part of the certification is what I want to end with. If we don't create the legitimate space for the healers to coexist, they are not interested to perform their role. And I asked many of them healers why. Because they say, my own family doesn't respect my knowledge. What about the society? So it has gone down much, bigger and deeper malaise that the families which have nourished these local health traditions, which is the only tradition in the world, including in China, it doesn't exist. In China, this system of gunis don't exist. It is only system of healthcare that is driven by the service spirit. Ayurveda doctor, allopathy doctor, they charge money to the patient even before they see the patient. Here is another contrasting example. Many of you might not see the healers in the field. They only ask about the problem and give the treatment. Sometimes they get paid. Sometimes there is only a gratitude, a sense of helplessness in the patient's inability to pay for the services that they have received. So there is a very alarming situation. In the next 20 years, make no mistake, there will be no local health traditions unless we wake up and strengthen through such innovative program like the why part that I mentioned. The certification of prior learning is one way that the state and the people of this country can enlarge the social legitimacy, the space for the healers, and there should be a serious attempt by the political as well as the bureaucratic and the intellectual exercise that must result in addressing many of these major gaps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murthy, for bringing out very clearly something that should shock us, that really this band of local health healers is not going to exist much longer, and we are presuming that it will be going from father to son, but it's not possible. The sons must have got motorbikes by now, and they must be traveling to the taluka headquarters, maybe doing completely different work. So this kind of knowledge, we have not bothered to codify it except the way the councils have done, but that is not really something which is translated into life as it is being lived. It is just a compendium. How is this life which is being lived, which is being used by people? People have no option but to use it, and I think that is not being recognized. Just to give you a little story which surprised me, I don't know about how many of you would have seen it. I'm sure Darshan Bhai and Murthy Saab would have seen it many, many times, but it's worth sharing because as a bureaucrat I found it very inspiring. I was taken to Unnao, which is a little distance from Lucknow, maybe about 60-70 kilometers from there, right inside a village to a bone setter. This bone setter, I thought it will be one man and one room and all that. He had on that day, and he was not, it was not a program which was drawn up, he was not doing anything to impress me. There were 60 people who were in that semi-pakka, thatched roof kind of environment. It was a hospital of its own kind. You brought your own gas cylinder, you bought it. Your wife sat at the foot of the bed and she made your chapatis and all that. It was your little kitchenette at the foot of the little cot. There was a machardani given to you. There were a couple of khuntis on which you hung various satchels containing whatever you owned. And older people, younger people, young women, children were all over there. They were given a takht like this to sleep on, and that's it. You bring your bori bistra and you're there for 3 months, 4 months. So I talked to people. I talked to a young woman who was hardly, I think, something like 22 years old, and I said, what on earth are you doing over here? She had good clothes, salwar kameez. Her mother-in-law was with her, who was nice, hatta-katta woman, not impoverished or anything like that. I said, what are you doing here? She said, my daughter-in-law has a rheumatic, a hole in the heart or something. No doctor will do anything to do with a fracture on her. They're not going to treat her because they don't want to get into any complications in a hospital. we don't want an operation. And here she is feeling better, able to walk every day for her toilet, walking back. All the people over there had come out of choice. They said that we are mobile from the second day. Then I requested this man, will you show me how you do it? He and his daughter brought all the herbs, about that many herbs. They make that into a decoction, not a decoction, a kind of a lip. They open the wound, the fracture every third day, see that the joint is healing. He knows it from experience. And I had with me actual doctors who certified that he was doing no harm to anybody. He had splints which he had made out of bamboo, which were lying, any number of splints meant for small people, old people, young people. He would just do it and just put that lape and just wrap over that bandage. And the person was able to walk from day one. The lape was removed, was able to, again with crutches, move around. So you didn't have this problem of shortening of the leg, using a fixator stuck into you. You didn't have the operation trauma, and you were better. Now, this is something which I requested, earnestly requested. You don't have to comment on it. Can you request an allopathic orthopedic doctor just to see the progress? That's all, just to see the progress and comment on it. Do not get into what he's doing. They said, no, we will not be able to spare anybody to go there. I mean, this was unfortunate, but I would say the good news was that the Ayurvedic people, to meet your point, Murthy Saab, they were the ones who suggested that I go and see this bone healer. On my own, I could not have seen him. So all is not lost. The Ayurvedic people are not as bad as, and the Unani people, mind you, they are not as bad as made out. They definitely have a bias and a sense that they are superior because they have been to a college, that they know how to use computers, they know how to use language, which is medical language, but they do respect these traditions. They do respect them. And I think that marriage of knowledge and marriage of being able to have these traditions and have them available to people. Honestly, after seeing that man, and I saw it in the Kerala Trivandrum Government College, there also on banana leaves they were putting this fracture and making the person come back every third day. These examples told me, God forbid if I have a fracture, I think I would feel like being treated in that way, because I would not suffer all the problems of having your leg put into a plaster and God knows what is happening to your skin inside, you're scratching, you're feeling hot, all kinds of things. This was a very Indian, ordinary and beneficial way of dealing. This is only a bone setter. I will not trouble you with all the other examples that I saw. In the end, I want to recap by just quickly running over the wonderful presentations we have had. I cannot even attempt to cover what is said, but each one in their own way, you will agree with me, held you spellbound. They had your attention. Nobody was talking or whispering or walking in or out, which is itself a tribute to the kind of personnel who were here today. Darshan Shankar ji, of course, in his inimitable style, put across the danger of ignoring this. I know he's very unhappy at the way this is being treated. I don't know why there is this kind of bias. I really don't know, because the understanding that it exists is there in the state governments. Otherwise, they would not have themselves allowed me or taken me to see all these traditions. And the idea of certification and the idea of a green health movement and developing local pharmacopoeias is something that he spoke about. He is himself a repository of so much knowledge, and so is the institute that he heads. I don't know how best we can bring this into the, you might say, mainstream. But if anyone has worked for bringing it into the mainstream, Darshan Shankarji has. Ritu Priyaji has done some really path-breaking work under the aegis of the National SHRC, which is, what is it called?
Health System
Research Center under the Ministry of Health. And I think the surveys that she and her partner Shweta, who is an Ayurvedic doctor, did, I mean, they're very, very indicative of what is happening under NRHM, the co-located facilities, the standalone facilities. How much is this taking off? Is it on a plateau? Is it likely to move ahead? I think it is a piece of work which gives you a huge background countrywide in 18 states, and I think that she captured that very well in her presentation. and also talked about the cross-cutting nature of the integration that is required. I must say that we had, as usual, Madhurika Banerjee, eloquent, and the two issues which she picked up were the issues that any political scientist should, which is the distinction between codified and non-codified knowledge, and the pluralism which is there already, but we have this bias and we have this elitism which we have gone and introduced on our own. And definitely we do look down on those things when we have to discuss about efficacy, safety, effectiveness. But I know that I was taken to a cancer center near Lucknow, and they admit, they said, we have mantras, we have chants, we pray to the zodiac, we do purification with dhupan samagri. Now, in my way of thinking, since I came with a very long years in the Ministry of Health as a background, all this put me off. Initially, I said, what is all this going on? I mean, I can't be subjected to all this, the mantras going on, and I'm made to sit over there. But then it struck me. This is nothing but faith healing. The people coming there are terminally ill. They may live for a month, they may live for 3 months. But if this is giving the family solace, and the family is looking for some way of satisfying themselves and their loved one, that they're doing something for them, who am I to be sitting in judgment that you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that? I must say that what she brought out as a political scientist makes a huge amount of sense. And then, of course, the idea that she brought out about the way the commodification has taken place, the way the industry has transformed contemporary Ayurveda into capsules and things which you just, take, chocolate chawanprash and things like that. This is a far, far cry from what Ayurveda in its holistic nature with dinacharya, ritucharya, all those things. It is not just taking capsules. But what I found very odd was when I looked at private practitioners about 50 years and above and the 30-year-old BMS graduates, they all had these single capsules sitting on their tables, Himalaya products. So I said, you use all these? They said, yes, 3 दिन के लिए हम देते हैं, उसके बाद ठीक हो जाते हैं तो ठीक है, नहीं तो हम antibiotics देते हैं, injection लगा लेते हैं. If this is what we have brought our medical system into, it is really questionable. And I felt sad that this is what is happening and there's no way we can change it. We can only change it if we are able to sensitize people that Ayurveda is not a question of just popping pills. They work. Sometimes they do work. And therefore one has to thank the Himalayas and Daburs that they brought a certain position for Ayurveda as a line of treatment. It is respected. In many countries in the world, it is respected because of the Himalayas of the world. But that is not the Ayurveda, not the classical Ayurveda. And there is a huge problem which she brought out very eloquently, both in her speech and in her book. And then we had Unni Krishnan, who was very blunt about the kind of education that he has received and where it has taken him and what needs to be done about it. I can only tell him that the Guru Shishya Parampara is very much being promoted by the Ministry of Health. This is one good thing they're doing. They're having this Rashtriya Ayurveda Vidyapit. I've sent out a questionnaire to all the Gurus and the Shishyas to ask them their feeling. What did they learn? What did the Shishyas learn? Was there anything that the Guru taught you that your course didn't teach you? Do you feel equipped with any competency, any skill? And I think the answer is that out of about 35 Gurus, 33 replied to my questionnaire. Out of 97 Shishyas, only 30 replied to my questionnaire. I leave you to judge what the outcome is. But the fact is the system is in place and it is a good thing to have. And finally, we had Murthy Saab, who brought up the issue about the legitimacy of the local healers, the bias against healers, the fact that a certification of the healers was attempted and seems to have just been dumped. And that is scary because this is our oral tradition. We own it, and those people have brought it down through word of mouth, through generations. And it is extremely effective. When people have nothing, well, they have this to go upon. And when they have small things and big things, they are using this. And it is really unfortunate if we are not able to mainstream it. Even if not for use, at least we should be able to give them the recognition and the credibility that they deserve. At the end, I want to thank all of you for having so patiently come, listened. I think that we have time, Vijayji, to have a few questions. Can we do it? See, I think you put up your hand so I know how many there are. 1, 2, 3.
One name you have in your
I'm so
list.
sorry. There is. You told me that.
Narendra Mehra.
Narendra, he is an eminent person, and I think I'll give him the first opportunity to speak. The name was given to me. कहाँ गया इनका नाम आपने दिया तो था नहीं I can't leave it like that.
नरेंद्र मेहरोत्रा.
नरेंद्र मेहरोत्रा.
एमिनेंट तो और भी बहुत लोग हैं लेकिन
पर आप शुरुआत be a little crisp and short because I think we'll be running out of time. Otherwise, there are 3 or 4 more people who want to comment or ask questions.
I think there are 2 issues which I would like to kind of particularly mention. These were passingly referred according to my understanding. And the issues are A, the commercialization interests that are there, and B, the democratic process that is important. In the sense that as Vijay mentioned in the beginning about water systems and passingly Madhulika mentioned about agriculture and so on. If we look at the entire scenario, post-colonial reality, it's through the knowledge systems, whether it is agriculture, whether it is Vastu Shastra, whether it is health systems and so on. It's unfortunate that people who can make big temples, big temple structures which people of the modern architecture will find difficulty, are not allowed to give certificate to building. It is unfortunate that after passing through BAMS, our Ayurvedic graduates are not allowed to give medical certificates and fitness certificates. Very funny. They can treat people, they are not allowed to give medical certificates and fitness to their own doctors on duty. There is a system which does not recognize the on-farm inputs, which does not recognize the value of seeds made by the farmers. If there is a government system where any help, any subsidy, any program, the seeds made by the farmers have no meaning. All the inputs made by the farmers on their farm have no place in the entire system of agriculture in the country. I see a thread into all this. And when Madhulika said, when Vijay said, that we have to, if we think of the Indian knowledge systems, these are not in isolation. The issue of democratic help and support that it requires is very critical. And the other issue of commercialization again is linked. In all these things, it is linked with commercialization. It's linked with the interests of industry. Even in a meeting of organic farming that was held about a month back, I was there in Ghaziabad, the major focus was the industry which is going to make organic inputs. And how do you organize that, how do you standardize that and so on. The same thing as in health is in agriculture, as in all the other knowledge traditions. Now that is the fundamental issue according to me, that unless the basic inherent strength of the society is brought forth in terms of knowledge system, in terms of technological options that Ritu is talking about, we will not be able to address these issues. That's a fundamental issue. I'll just add a couple of points to what others and Rayamurthy said. The entire question of orientation or training or strengthening these traditions is nowhere to be considered. The schemes, the way they are made, are not by the demand, etc., as you have been referring to as a bureaucrat, I mean, not in a negative manner I'm referring you to, but by the vested interest to decide the policies. There are studies of ICMR to say, through the All India coordinated studies, that domiciliary delivery at home is better in many ways. These are studies conducted by ICMR. And we come out with an approach that Janani Suraksha Yojana has to be promoted, where unless the lady goes to the health center, she cannot get the benefit, which means eradicate all the dyes. That is a very severe design to eliminate the dyes. Whereas in reality, something like 80% of these deliveries in the health centers are being conducted by ayas, by safai karmacharis, and at the best by ANMs. 95% of the deliveries are not conducted by any of the professional doctors in the CHCs and the PHCs. While you are eliminating the guys who are trained, who are knowledgeable, who have a technology, who have all the training. And not only that, you do not allow the BAMS doctors to conduct deliveries. You allow a ayah to conduct a delivery, you allow a sweeper to conduct delivery in a primary health center, but you don't allow a BAMS doctor to conduct deliveries. Now this politics of commercialization and the downgrading of knowledge systems is responsible for the chaos that we are in. And as a matter of how do we treat this, we'll have to take a cue from here as to where to attack the system in the way you talked about, Hari, that it's the politics that Madhulika is talking about. Of these things that we have to take up rather than, and I just give a,
Meruthaji, we should give a chance.
okay.
Who put up a hand over here?
Yes, please. Just introduce yourself, please.
Namaskar. I'm Devendra Kanthora, and I was looking at the whole complexities of the issues that are being addressed here. Something that was coming to my mind is that a bumblebee doesn't know it is designed to fly. The experts say it is not designed to fly, yet the bumblebee flies because it doesn't know that what the experts feel about it. As to the Ayurvedic industries and where I would share a few thoughts. By training, I'm an engineer. I call myself a mystery. As a mystery, I know how to, if a system has functioned at some time and is not functioning anymore, if its efficiency has to be increased, how it can be increased, that's the job of a mystery. Today's engineers are not taught about it. I was a mystery for 18-20 years and a very complex systems. And then I joined and I became a management consultant. A consultant, management consultant is a person that borrows your watch to tell you the time and charges for it. I've not worked professional in India, overseas, and what gives me this audacity to speak at this moment, when I was coming to India a little over 3 years ago, the professor I was in contact with gave one message to fellow Indians through me, and I'm trying to convey that. He said, "Dev, when you go back, do tell your friends, you don't need to lap the trash of the West. Get into your own systems, work with it, benefit from it, and guide us." The West does not have the kind of audacity we think they have. Now, with relation to Ayurveda and relation to Ayush, few words that came across, Madam Ritupriya, Madam Madhulika, and others have spoken about it. 4 years ago, I got in touch with somebody who is at this moment in the health ministry as a special secretary. The word Ayush Gram that I saw here, he conceded 4 years ago that, Mr. Kanthora, you're the first person. I focused myself only to Uttarakhand, looking at Uttarakhand as a microcosm of what India is about. And the Ayush, Ayurgram and the related matters are a part of that which I'm building upon. So what I've got to understand that within this highly corrupt bureaucratic system, there are gems inside and they exist. They are simply hesitant to take head-on their fellow colleagues into the political system, which are highly, I would say, corrupted. It is an understatement. There are elements that want to work about it. There are people with deep pockets. Yes, one of the very senior person from the Ayurvedic industry said, all the Ayurvedic manufacturers in large scale are frauds, and I agree with that. My knowledge on Ayurveda may be peripheral, but the way out of this exists. And for that part, that collaborative alliance, commercialization is bad, but to create an economic system out of it is possible. A proposal of this kind was made to the Chief Secretary of Uttarakhand State, and the stumbling block was from the Ayurveda industry. The person who's now the Director General, I'm told, and from the horse's mouth, Vice Chancellor of the university, when she was a principal of a medical college. He went there, and this is a story to illustrate how this commercialization, politicization of this entire thing is eating into the very innards. So when this vice chancellor went on a flying squad visit, when the examination was going on, he found that the teacher there was, during the examination, reading out answers to the students and they were writing it. And he called the principal, saying, "What is happening here?" And the principal said, "Sir, क्या करें? इन बच्चों के भविष्य का भी सवाल है." And his answer was, this is straight from the horse's mouth. His answer was, और पेशेंट्स का भविष्य का क्या होगा? कि सर आप तो समझते हैं, हमें प्रैक्टिकल होना पड़ता है. So the cause of the problem is within the problem, and so is the remedy. A business plan exists, and an overseas economic development agency. I was a consultant to them, and I worked with
I
them.
think this.
They are ready to come of it. There is a way out, and if you give the privilege to the academics, to those in the bureaucracy, there are elements. It is not Bhanumati ka Kunba Joda. There are very tangible elements that can be brought.
I don't think we have the time to go into the details. If you have a paper, you'll have to give it to Vijay Pratap.
Thank you very much, madam. It is just to say there is an answer to the solutions.
मेरा नाम गणेश पुरोहित है और मैं उदयपुर में एक संस्था है जागरण जन विकास समिति, उसके साथ काम करता हूँ, ख़ासतौर से गुणी लोगों के साथ। अब दूसरे काम भी करते हैं पानी वगैरह के, लेकिन गुणियों के ऊपर ये गुणी नाम जो निकाला है वो वहीं से आता है। मैं ख़ास तौर से एक बात तो ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि गुणी अपना काम कर रहे हैं अपने लेवल पर जितना कर सकते हैं वो, और वो अभी भी कोई बहुत व्यावसायिक या उस तरह से नहीं करते हैं, वो पूरा का पूरा सेवा के दृष्टि से करते हैं। तो एक दृष्टि हमें साफ करनी चाहिए कि वो सेवा के लिए करते हैं। हम उनकी डॉक्टर के साथ या कंपाउंडर के साथ या नर्सिंग लोगों के साथ तुलना नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ जो कमी मुझे लगती, और वो बहुत अपने आप को एक्सपोज भी नहीं करना चाहता है, वो अपने सीमित दायरे में जितना कर रहा है उसी पे वो करना चाहता है। लेकिन हम लोग जो ख़ास तौर से एकेडमिक लोग हैं, रिसर्चर हैं, यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं, कॉलेजेस हैं, और जो इस सारे मसले को समझते हैं, मुझे लगता है कि उनकी बहुत मदद चाहिए उन लोगों के बारे में, उन लोगों के ज्ञान के बारे में बात सामने लाने के लिए, ख़ास तौर से एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन और ब्यूरोक्रेट्स और पॉलिटिक लोगों के सामने लाने के लिए। तो उनकी बहुत मदद चाहिए। मुझे लगता है कि इस बैठक के बाद भी इसके ऊपर विचार किया जाए कि कैसे एकेडमिशियंस और रिसर्चर्स इस बात को, गुणियों के काम को, ट्रेडिशनल हीलर्स के बात को आगे बढ़ा सकते हैं, उनके नॉलेज, उनकी प्रकृति, उनकी संस्कृति को आगे ला सकते हैं। क्योंकि बहुत सी बार ये होता है, उसके खुद के दांत गंदे हो रहे हैं लेकिन वो दांत का इलाज करता है, ये सत्य है। और वो कहीं कोई जो डेंटिस्ट 5-5 साल 7-7 साल की डिग्री लेके आते हैं उनसे कहीं बढ़िया करता है। तो कैसे हम इनके इस सारे प्रकृति को हम सामने लाएं, ज्ञान को हम सामने लाएं, और दुनिया को बताएं कि क्या है, कौन है गुणी। दूसरा मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, जो सर्टिफिकेशन की बात हरिमूर्ति जी ने की, और हम लोग भी एक स्टेप इसमें आगे आए, उसके बाद एक तरह से प्रोसेस प्रक्रिया काफ़ी धीमी हो गई है। इग्नू से भी उसमें, तो मुझे लगता है कि उसको भी आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए और उसके लिए काम हमें करना चाहिए। उसके लिए कहाँ दबाव डालना है, कहाँ क्या करना है, मिलके कुछ रणनीति तय करनी है, तो हम लोग अपनी तरफ से उसमें खड़े होने को तैयार हैं। तो ये बात मैं इसमें रखना चाहता हूँ। और सर्टिफिकेशन वाली बात के ऊपर मुझे लगता है कि सबकी सहमति होगी। वो इलाज कर रहा है, आप न भी दें सर्टिफिकेट फिर भी इलाज कर रहा है, लेकिन सर्टिफिकेट एक ताकत है हम लोगों के लिए जो उनके साथ खड़े हैं, उन लोगों के लिए जो आगे सीखने की प्रक्रिया अपनाना चाहते हैं, गुरु शिष्य में शिष्य बनना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए भी एक ताकत की बात है। तो मुझे लगता है कि इन चीज़ों के ऊपर हमें ख़ास तौर से ध्यान देना चाहिए और इस बैठक के बाद कुछ न कुछ एक्शन की तरफ हमें जाना चाहिए।
Or thank you. I didn't come prepared to speak, but listening to everybody, I just thought let me put across some of my thoughts.
Just introduce yourself.
Devjani Roy. I'm from IGNOU. Basically, I'm trained as a biologist, and I have spent a number of years, most of my working years in the Northeast. And there, as Madam was narrating the bone setters, you won't believe, I myself have seen some 15 years back. Northeast, you know, it's not well connected anyways, and they have this open pit coal mining. And there are accidents I've seen with my own eyes. Coal trucks have gone over people. They have been carried in just bories, because they don't have anything to carry and they have to manage, and they went up the hill. I was just on my own interest, I was looking at these things, and that's how I think God put me in touch with Darshan later on, now recently, some 2 years back, and we started working. But there are situations in the real life which needs to be addressed, and as many people were saying, that even we need to look at it in a very region-specific ways. It cannot be a uniform thing. We have to think, like for example, Northeast till now doesn't have facilities, especially somebody talked about dyes. There we have got this Asha scheme, other things, but how will the Ashas take the expectant mother to the hospital for a delivery, because there are no roads, there are no transports. So we have to think of our traditional system, and this was again where I landed up seeking help from Darshan, what to do about the dyes, because the Northeast needs them. Groups of women came to me asking, can we not do anything, because this is a scheme which will not work, Asha scheme will not work for Northeast. Then again I was given this responsibility of setting up the Center for Traditional Knowledge Systems in IGNOU. That's again another struggle, because there, as Unni mentioned, education is very important. We have to set up the system. People are accustomed to the formal systems, but when we talk of our own knowledge, our traditions, which is mostly come down from the oral traditions, there you talked about Guru Shishya Parampara, and this is where Guru Shishya Parampara is most applicable as an education system for our traditional knowledge, our traditional systems. But how do we fit it in with the formal systems? And there I think this whole group can think about it, and we can only bring about a movement, all people getting together, looking at the needs, how to fit it in at best, and what is our own inherent strength. So I would just leave it at that and just ask people to think and how to do it. We have got tremendous amount of traditional knowledge in various fields, and how do we sort of tap it? Thank you.
Yes. Both of you. Take it one by one. Why don't you come
I
in
think
front?
I'll be audible without the mic.
No, come here. There is a mic here. Come. Just introduce yourself.
I'm Aruna. I'm a PhD student from SOAS, University of London, and I'm here for my fieldwork for this year. And the discussion was very interesting and quite insightful. I've just come back from a 6 months fieldwork in the Northeast, in Manipur particularly. Just wanted to bring to the front a few questions that we are all talking about service providers and people who receive the service. But when it comes to knowledge holders themselves, and when we look at the industry as it has been done, there's a serious question about whom do the benefits actually go to. And my experience comes from actually two